A section of Manipur Police Commandos staged a symbolic protest by laying down their arms over allegations that senior officers asked them to restrain themselves after an armed group of nearly 200 militants vandalized the resident of ASP of the police in Imphal West and abducted him and a security guard from outside his house. The abduction happened in retaliation for an attempt to detain militants in the ethnic violence hit state. The Manipur Police has also issued a statement in this regard, wherein they have mentioned that a case has been registered in this regard and an investigation has also been opened up. The question that we ask today is that who is responsible for destabilizing Manipur and who is the one responsible for the attacks that have become very frequent and rampant. We'll talk about this with our guest. Joining us on the show is Mr. L.N. Rao, former DCP of Delhi, Major Mohammad Ali Shah, defense expert. Also joining us on the show is Major General G.G. Dwivedi, global strategic affairs expert. And last but not the least, Major General Sudhakar Ji, global and political defense expert, joins us on the program as well. General Dwivedi, I'll begin with you, sir. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Well, you know, the security of Manipur, basically the equanimity and the peace in Manipur, which has not been there for the past 10 months, is continuously getting degraded and downgraded from time to time. This ethnic violence, which was supposed to be sorted out through negotiations, is only becoming more violent, more egotistical and more pronounced. What is supposed to be done at this point in time? We haven't heard too much from the center. We haven't heard too much from the authorities in the state, the political authorities and the administration in the state as to what the plan of action is. In the midst of this, we are curtailing the influx of people from Myanmar, but the problem in Manipur still remains, sir.
It's very ironic that the government does not have a very clear policy on Manipur as of date. And Manipur has been a very complex state as it is, and from my own experience, having done long time in Manipur, especially as division commander, that Manipur today is in a dire state because the violence which started sometime on 3rd of May last year has not subdued, and in fact it has only aggravated. And there are a couple of reasons for this. First and foremost, because of the affirmative action, moved by the High Court there, that actually has brought the two communities, the major communities, the Kukis and the Maitis, absolutely at loggerheads. And today, Manipur has gone back point in time because these two communities, their own so-called private armies, fully armed, are facing each other. And all that security forces could do was to create buffer zones, but it's like a battle zone scenario. Secondly, no major political initiative has come in. The general policy has been just to contain and manage the situation, but not find a solution. And that's why, unfortunately, today is the political consideration which have been overriding the national issues of national security. And we are saying that there have been cases occurring again and again, and today almost more than 185 people have lost their lives, and periodically there have been skirmishes which are actually a very dangerous sight. Along with that, there are 2-3 other developments. One is the external dimensions. Was brought out the Myanmar is as it is in turmoil, and we have been having flux of refugees because there is a fair amount of give and take or relations between the tribes in Myanmar and our own Kuki home tribes. So therefore, this is added on to the situation. Secondly, the China factor, because I have been to Myanmar and seen for myself that China's influence in Myanmar is intense. It is Sinicization of China. In fact, you go to Mandalay and North, it all looks like Chinese. And Chinese are taking full advantage of this, and they have got deep-rooted footprint in Myanmar. So all I can say is that today, if we do not address the political issues militarily, the situation cannot be handled. It is just about being managed. And until we bring these two communities together, try to break the divide and try to disarm the groups, both the groups on both sides, you will find such situation would continue and it could get further worse. And ironically, Manipur, being a frontline state, cannot be allowed to slip further into distress. Vinny.
General Sudhakarji, how much do you concur with what General Dwivedi has said? Of course, the China presence has always been a suspect. It's always been on record that there are elements from outside of the state who want this trouble to keep fomenting. They want this trouble to never end. They want to, in fact, be the pain in Manipur's peace and solace. But, this is something which is identifiable. And yet the violence continues. Police stations have been targeted, civilians have been targeted, politicians have been targeted. Sophisticated weaponry has been obtained through raids, but still, the target against China is still very, very ambiguous at this point in time. Or is it not?
Rishabh, good afternoon. Thank you for getting me to your show. I think the subject per se has been flagged and flogged time and again for past more than 8-9 months in your channel. There is nothing. We have amongst us is a young negotiator who's had hands-on experience, Major Muhammad Ali Shah. He will be able to throw better light on the issue. But let me put the old wine in the new bottle. Let's look at things with a different, through a different prism maybe. The old wine in the new bottle is, we are all mindful of the fact of external factor, what is going on in the Tatmadaw or the military junta in the back foot, and the convergence of all the pro-democratic parties. Also, let me use, through your channel, clarify once and for all that much against the perception of the environment that cookies are the terrorists or the militants is a misleading statement. Because if we take our mind back to the suspension of orders, which was signed with great difficulty after a great deal of negotiations with multiple stakeholders in 2008, was a landmark achievement in the history of independent India. But that today, when I went through the documents, I am really shocked and alarmed that the central government has backed out from suspension of order. I hope it is not true. So as the stakeholders, this is something which is disastrous, because the whole problem, now let's try and understand from the perspective of a political angle, from a socio-economic angle and a cultural angle. The political angle, there is no problem in India which, if addressed focusedly or in a resolute manner, which cannot be resolved. To my mind and horror, I think the problem of Manipur has been left to simmer. For God only knows why, what is the reason. There has to be some method in madness. I only give optimism to the governance at the highest level, center level, as also to the state level. Second point that comes to my mind is that in that suspension of operation order, there was the Koki group with a great deal of deliberations and magnanimity as also equanimity. They had lowered their demand from autonomous statehood to Article 6 being considered to give them autonomous status, like the way, let's say, my mind goes to the Bodoland. General Dwivedi will bear me out. Bodoland has been created after lots of violence spread over many years, and it has been carved out of the existing land or the area in Assam. The sixth schedule gives them the protection of the tribal identity, the cultural identity, their entitlement. So, and this sixth schedule also, if I know correctly, remember correctly, I have been in Northeast for more than 9 years and 3 to 4 years here in this sector in Imphal. This is applicable in Arunachal Pradesh, it is applicable in Tripura, it is applicable in Assam, it is applicable in 2-3 other states, except for one state, that is Manipur. So why is it not being considered? If cookies are the predominant stakeholder who are suffering as per them, or the Meiteis are the suffering, because the High Court has already carried out an amendment to the judgment or the verdict. That should actually quell down or bring some degree of semblance of order, reduce the violence level, and give some kind of a semblance of a civilized society. But it's not happening. What are the causes there? So if those are the causes of external, internal, border, immigration, then why isn't the government taking steps? This is very, very actually a paradox of reality, which is not making me understand the basic logic. Why is it being left to simmer and play into the hands of a good old elephant in the room, China? Why are we leaving the things to the open paradigm for the people to exploit?
All right. Okay. Let me take a response from Ali on this as well. Ali, do you think that there is an element of helplessness here that is being exposed by the government, or do you think that this so much time that has elapsed, that these two communities continue to spar over each other? In fact, they continue to target civilian and administrative apparatus as well. This is in a very profound and a deep way hinting towards the failure of policy, the failure of some sort of a debate between these two communities, where the government can definitely play a part as a broker.
Right, Preet, thank you for that question. It's a very, very good question, and thank you for inviting me on your panel. It's an honor to be here. You are one of the most intelligent anchors who understands the most complex situations very, very well. So it's always indeed wonderful talking out things with you, and I thank the General Officer over here for calling me the young negotiator in the Manipur process, because I have a passion, a keen interest in Manipur. Now I will tell you, Vinny, what the basic problem is. It's very simple. It's not all that complex. If you want to make it complex, it can become very complex. If I say it's not complex, it's very simple. For example, I'll equate it with the example of driving over here. When you drive a car, a person who does not know to drive a car will say, oh, it's very complex. You keep thinking about driving, getting gears. But if you know to drive, it's not that. There's no problem in this world that cannot be solved. Now, provided there's a will with it. Now, the very fact is, we saw yesterday where the Manipur Police Commandos, they had surrendered their weapons in protest because one ASI of theirs was picked up. And they were told to show restraint. They couldn't react to it. They felt with authority comes responsibility. With responsibility comes authority. But they couldn't react to it. So they were very upset about it. Now, had such a thing happened in the army, it would have been termed as a mutiny, and it was straight away a court-martial offense. I don't know in the police whether there is a term as mutiny that exists in the dictionary or not. I'm not too sure. So I don't know. But in the Assam Rifles, which is led by the army officer, there certainly is. Now, the very basic problem is, as General Sulakarji rightly said, that the Sioux agreement, with great difficulty, after a lot of negotiations, in 2005, the army and the Kuki underground groups, they came in an agreement on 22nd August 2008, finally with the government of India. The Sioux agreement was signed, which was like a ceasefire, which had certain terms and conditions. Now, the very fact is, I wish a Sioux agreement could have been signed by the mighty groups as well, with the underground groups as well. So the very fact is, whenever there is an agreement given, it should be honored. It should be, otherwise you lose face completely. If you do not honor an agreement, if you do not live up to it, it can be any agreement. Now the very fact is, the people from Manipur also have to understand from both sides, from the Maite side and Kuki side. Both are wonderful people. Both are wonderful people. And as journalists, you must have faced this situation many times. When you are neutral, you are bound to get accused by either sides. Oh, someone's this side, that side. Now, I will not speak in favor of Maite or in favor of Kuki. I will speak in favor of Manipur. I will speak in favor of India. Whatever is in the best interest of the nation as a former soldier that I perceive. I think a Sioux agreement or a ceasefire is more than welcome. It's a welcome step. I wish all the underground factions can come into it, because I believe dialogue is the only way forward. Having seen enough bloodshed in Jammu Kashmir and in the northeast part of India, I would say a gun will only bring pieces. It will never bring peace, we need. So only when we talk to people, when we converse. Now I will tell you what the basic problem is. It's now hatred among Maites and Kukis. Both the communities have begun to actually become such bitter enemies and hate each other. And many of them do not know why they are fighting. Trust me, a common simple cookie, a common simple maite would want peace, would want to relax, and at night when you sleep, you would want to wake up in peace. Nobody wants to wake up with that uneasy calm that you don't know what could happen in the morning next to them. They just don't know. So the very fact is, when you want to establish...
Right, Ali, just hold on to that thought. We have more to talk about at this point in time. Mr. Rao, what do you associate this long-standing dispute to? Is it, attributed to outside forces, like some of our panelists have described as China being the white elephant here? Is it a case of mismanagement, or is it a case of hostilities being so deep driven and profound that it will perhaps take, a longer stay at the negotiating table for everyone to be placated?
Yes, Vineet, I had been listening to all the eminent panelists on this topic, and they have very good experience of that area being served there for so many times. But in fact, the conclusion of all these things, I could make out that there seems to be a lack of willpower, political will, because this problem is not from today or day after tomorrow, it's not a very new problem. It's an old problem, and you might have seen that unrest in Manipur is for more than 9-10 months due to ethnic problem. The root cause must have been known by the government, by the authorities, by the police, and by this time, and that a possible solution could have been found. I fully believe that there are possibilities of making any solution for any biggest problem in this world. Nothing is impossible in my discovery also, and I also agree with Mohammed also. But there must be something to achieve. There must be some will to do that. I think that is lacking in this whole scenario. Now come to the point of keeping the weapons by the police. I don't think that this is the right way. No doubt there must be some grievances with the police, and they must be suffering from so many atrocities at the hand, like one ASI has been kidnapped by this so-called terrorists. I should not call them terrorists, because these are not the terrorists, but the ethnic problem between the Mighty and Cookies is going on so many years that problem should have been solved by now. But at the same time, the police should have taken all conventional methods to keep peace in that area, and so that nothing can be done, and that every possible solution can be found out by the police. That there must be some. I count that what are the conventional methods, that one-to-one dialogue with the public, and that can be done by the police level, and that another thing can be done by the political level. Political bosses should have find out solution by now, that such things should not happen like this. The police had to keep their weapons down. That gives a very bad signal to the whole force of the police, and that should be taken care of by the senior police officers, and why it has been done. And then the ASI who has been abducted, he should be restored right by now. I think that has been he might have been found by now. And there must be a confidence building among the force, entire police force of that area. They should not be demoralized at all, and there must be moral boasting by the bosses of police.
Right.
These are the solutions which can be found out by the police as well as by the administration and the government politics.
Right. And General Dwivedi, for how far are we from, actually having a scenario where, the lack of action or the lack of, enforcement, makes people believe that they're living in an environment which is going to somehow solicit, any kind of anarchy?
I think a few points require clarification. Firstly, the suspension of operation agreement was signed 2005 at my headquarters in Limakong. So I have a first-hand insight into what went on. But, Cookies were the most benign group of militants. It was the UNLF, it was the PLA, it was the KYKL, who were the most, dangerous groups. Cookies were the most benign. But anyway, that was, I think, more of symbolic, because they were not the trouble creators that time. Secondly, there have never been a problem between Cookies and Metis. This problem only started on 3rd of May when the judgment of the High Court came in to give affirmation action to Metis. Otherwise, Metis and Cookies have lived in great harmony. The third very important issue is we are trying to solve a political problem through the military or the police, and that's not going to happen because political problems have no military solutions and they have to be solved politically. Unfortunately, the current dispensation has lost its confidence among the cookies, and that's the major issue. And the last point which I'd like to make is that this situation needs to be handled at a national level. It cannot be left to the state because state is actually, I think, today in a very helpless position. And lastly, what we need to understand is that these two communities have gone so far apart. The kind of divide that has now emerged, I think, going to take very long time to come until very concrete political steps are taken. I don't think we are going to find a solution, and the situation can only worsen and not become better. Vineet.
Right. And Ali, what can these political actions and steps be? You've spent a lot of time in Manipur. You understand the community, you understand the terrain, you understand every nook and corner of this place. If you had to say something or advise something to the government today, what would it be?
Right. Vineet, General Dwivedi said very rightly, when the Sioux agreement was taking place, he was there. He was a division commander in Limakong, in fact, and the tie that I'm wearing off to the spare corps. I was the HC2C corps commander of the spare corps. Now, the very fact is, Vineet, it is extremely complex. The government they have done the best. I'm not saying that they haven't done the best, but it definitely, the efforts are not enough to show results at the moment. It is quite disheartening to see that even I would also put some bit of blame on the national media as well. Who have not given adequate attention to Manipur. Unlike in NewsX, and I'm not saying that I'm speaking here on this topic, I know NewsX consistently has been showing about Manipur, but many other people have not considered about they are as Indians as any of us. They have contributed a great deal in nation building. The best of sportsmen, they are from Manipur. But the attention that Manipur deserves, unfortunately so, they haven't got that. People are more concerned right now about foreign countries, about foreign issues than what's happening in Manipur. This is our own country. Now, it is obviously, if the army was called in Vineet, initially itself, the army would have sorted out the mess within no time. Army would have just called them straight away. An army would have been called as an aid to civil authority. You need magistrates, you need guides, you need maps, you need people to figure out where it is, you need support. But the army cannot just suddenly go there and start fighting in midair and saying, okay, now there's Armed Forces Mission Power Act and so areas and so areas not there. So I think firstly give the army full power. Because as I said earlier, with authority comes responsibility, with responsibility comes authority. But when you tie the hands of the army, what can they do? So I think the government also, and this requisition should have come from the state government. When the army, whenever there has been a mess, we have always called the army. Army has been the trump card for everyone. For a small boy falls into a well, prince falls into a well in the year 2005 it happened, I think. And army's called, right? When army's called for floods, for earthquake, for relief, big issue in Manipur. But I'm surprised that the army has not been given a free hand to operate and to cure this problem. So that's just my remedy to it. Army should be given full powers and full authority to solve out this mess. And I have full faith that the army can do it.
All right, Ali. We've run out of time. Would like to thank all our guests for being a part of this wonderful conversation.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.